Cold open. He's on the plane. Not for a christening. Not for a balcony moment. For survival. Sources inside the palace say Prince Harry is flying back to London in full-blown crisis mode, racing a clock he cannot control to salvage the one thing he never believed he could lose: his royal titles. But here's the twist no one saw coming. This isn't a conversation with a loving father about forgiveness. The man Harry has to persuade is his brother. While King Charles fights cancer, William has stepped into the vacuum with a sharpened vision and a checklist, and the word around Westminster is that Harry and Meghan's names are on it. Before we unpack how we got here, and what Harry might offer to keep the Sussex name, tell me in the comments, if you were William, do you cut them off and protect the institution, or pull them back in and risk the brand? Because once Parliament starts moving on titles, history shows it almost never hits the brakes. Keep watching, because in 4 minutes I'll show you the exact sequence William is reportedly considering. Andrew first to create precedent, then the Sussexes through the same legal door, neat, clinical, irreversible. Roll the timeline back. Charles has always been the dad who leaves the door ajar, the man who wanted reconciliation even when it cost him in the press. But illness changes the math. Courtiers are quietly calling this phase the pre-succession, a polite way of saying William is already running point. Where Charles sees a family, William sees a brand with a balance sheet. Every engagement must justify its existence. Every name on the list either adds value or dilutes it. The day that crystallized this for William, insiders say, wasn't anything to do with Harry at all. It was 2023, the moment he found himself photographed near Prince Andrew at a public event and watched the backlash explode. It wasn't just bad optics, it was a strategic error he never intends to repeat. From that day, the policy hardened. No sheltering liabilities, no sentimental exceptions, no more free passes for anyone cashing in on a royal connection. That's the world Harry is flying into. And he knows it. People close to him say he's asking for face-to-face meetings with both Charles and William before any draft bill firms up. Translation: he wants to speak before the machine speaks for him. He's prepared to say he misread moments, that the tone of some interviews missed the mark, that he is ready to do what's needed. But here's the problem. This isn't a dispute about apologies. It's about architecture. William is building a smaller, sharper, defensible monarchy whose value is service, not celebrity. And every time Meghan teases a product, drops a cryptic beauty shot with labels hidden, holds court with a Vogue set, or parleys a title into a lifestyle play, it hands William fresh evidence for his case. The late Queen reportedly drew a very clear line: do not commercialize the crown. William intends to enforce that line as law, not suggestion. And the climate is brutal. Polling says the public is losing patience with royal drama. The appetite now is for duty delivered without noise. That's why William points to Princess and as his blueprint. Hundreds of engagements, no theatrics, no merch. If you want to understand his mind, understand this. He is less interested in popularity than in legitimacy. He wants a monarchy taxpayers could defend in a sentence. They work. If you can't pass that test, you don't stay on the roster. Which brings us back to Harry. What leverage does he actually have? Emotion? Weak. Shared history? Waning. Public sympathy? Split. The only card that might move William is proof that the Sussex brand can detach from royal fuel and still fly, or that it will be permanently redirected into service, without monetizing the crest. That's not a tweak. That's an identity transplant. Let's run the stakes, so there's no confusion. Titles are not just styling, they are keys. They open rooms, deals, doors, security protocols, and invitations. Strip them, and the Sussex enterprise becomes Harry and Meghan, private citizens with famous faces and a complicated past. Appearance fees wobble. Negotiations shift. And the fallout doesn't stop at the couple. Archie and Lilibet's futures are wrapped in this decision. What the palace signals to the world about their status will follow them for life. Harry understands that now. Maybe too late. Maybe just in time. Oh, what does a credible pitch from Harry even sound like in that room? Start with contrition that costs something. Not just sorry if you were hurt, but specific corrections. Lines from a memoir he can walk back without looking hollow. On-camera clarifications he can deliver without reopening old wounds. Pair that with a structural firewall, a binding commitment to cease using titles in any commercial capacity, updated company language, revised trademarks, new brand architecture that lives or dies by its own value, not by Duke and Duchess, baked into the masthead. Then add an offer of service that meets William's metric. Not performative optics, but real, unglamorous duty. Veteran mental health programs built with the Ministry of Defense, youth violence initiatives co-chaired with existing royal patrons, measurable outcomes reported annually. In other words, bring value or bring silence. But even if Harry brings all that, there's a chess problem he cannot solve alone. William's preferred path runs through Parliament. The plan, we're told, is procedural and politically palatable. You begin with Andrew, The least defensible case. Establish the mechanism, then extend the same instrument where necessary. Cold? Yes. Effective? Absolutely. It reframes the entire conversation from family feud to institutional reform. When the headlines read, Commons backs modernization of royal titles, it won't matter how heartfelt Harry's plea was in private. The reform train will already be moving, and there is nothing harder than asking politicians to reverse a modernization they just sold to the public. Let's talk about Meghan's side of the ledger, because whether you love her or loathe her, her next moves are pivotal. The podcast to beauty pivot is classic celebrity economics. Content builds audience. Beauty converts audience to margin. Smart business. Terrible optics if you're still trading on a coronet. The Vogue meetings, the teaser clips, the soft launch social posts, textbook build to a brand reveal. But every step that looks like crown to commerce tightens William's case. The question is not whether Meghan can create a beauty line that stands on its own. The question is whether she is willing to do it without any royal glow at all. Different packaging, different copy, different positioning. No subtle Sussex signals. Can she? Yes. Will she? That's the billion-dollar and family-defining question. Now, imagine the meeting. The room is quiet, the air heavy with a decade of unsaid things. William sits with briefing papers that read like a CFO's deck. Reputation risk, cost-benefit, precedent, governance. Charles looks older than he did last year. Eyes soft, torn between the crown he waited a lifetime to wear and the son he still wants to protect. Harry walks in with a folder that isn't a PR plan but a surrender of convenience. Corrections he will make, projects he will pause, profits he will walk away from, statements he will issue, a timetable he will keep permanently. On paper, it's the most adult thing he has ever done. In practice, it requires trust that doesn't exist. That's why what happens after the meeting matters more than what's said inside. William will watch the next 90 days like a hawk. Does the language on websites change? Do the title references vanish in contracts? Do the paparazzi trap stop? Do the friendly leaks go quiet? If they do, a path exists. If they don't, the guillotine drops. Let's scenario plan the outcomes. Scenario 1. Titles stripped. The Sussexes rebrand to first and last names, lean into American philanthropy and media, and double down on partnerships that don't require royal gloss. Security becomes a private matter. The UK chapter closes. Some will call it liberation. Others will call it exile. Scenario 2. Conditional reprieve. Titles remain, but strict rules lock them behind glass. No commercial usage, period. Limited, clearly defined public service projects approved case by case. Harry rebuilds trust via unshowy work. Meghan launches her beauty brand with zero royal references, zero insinuations, zero coronets. It's possible. It's also hard. Scenario 3. Structured return. The most unlikely on emotion, the most effective on optics.